In this video, I'm going to have a lesson with Nathan. You may have seen him in past videos. And this time we're going to do some obstacles. So he's only been riding for a year and a half. So he's still quite new to some of the bigger obstacles. And for this point of this video, I'm going to start with some small obstacles like this little log matrix. If you're quite new to riding, you could get over this log matrix without too much technique, but having the correct technique will help you get through it a lot cleaner. And then we'll look at some more advanced moves, maybe jumping the log matrix and doing even bigger obstacles like the pipes.
For me, enduro sections like this, momentum coming in, like how much momentum do I need? Can I blip this log? Can I jump it? Do I roll it, depending on my experience? Yeah, so a couple of questions there, which I think are very important.
How much speed and momentum do we need for this obstacle? Well, it depends what kind of approach that we want to tackle this obstacle with. So do we want to just roll over it nice and slowly? In which case we go at a steady speed, a smooth speed, and we're not hitting the brakes before it, or we're not suddenly accelerating before it, we're just staying steady and smooth. That's the kind of option you want to start with when you're new to these kind of obstacles, and then you want to work your way up. So you want to start coming in slowly, roll both of the logs, and the body position for this move is absolutely crucial. For example, a lot of people will lean back when they're going into a log because they think, I need to take some weight off the front tire. But what actually happens is when you hit the log, your momentum and your body is thrown forwards from the impact. So the further back you are, the more momentum is being propelled forwards. So if you hit this log leaning back with straight arms, you're actually more likely to go over the handlebars. You want to be in the attack position and you want to keep your head forwards and your hips back when you hit the log. And then you want to allow your body to move with the bike. So as you're going over the log, your head will come forwards. As you're going down, your hips will come backwards. So it's like a seesaw motion. So I've got Nathan's bike here to demonstrate. The first thing I want to talk about is just rolling the obstacles, kind of beginner approach to the log matrix. A lot of people make the mistake of when they're going over a log, is they lean back really far. So they bring their hips back and they have locked straight arms like this. But what happens is when the impact happens, when the front tire hits the log, you get thrown over the front. All of the momentum throws forward, and that's when you go over the handlebars, or best case, you end up on the front wheel and it's a bit sketchy. So actually, counterintuitively, when we're rolling up to the logs, we actually want to go up to the log with my head over the front of the handlebars. And as I'm going up the log, I want to drive my head forwards. And then as I'm going down the log, again, this is a very small log, so it's not as animated as it may sound, we kind of go backwards. So we allow our body to go backwards as we're going down the log.
Here, Nathan is not leaning back, which is good. But as you can see, he's not hinging enough at the hips.
Okay, the final approach to the obstacle is doubling it. About half a meter before the log, I will engage the clutch, rev the bike, load the power to the flywheel, and then as I drop the clutch, I'm going to have more power into the obstacle, and I want to accelerate as I hit that log, and that's what's going to propel me up into the air and over the second log. I don't want to case the second log. If I am losing speed as I go into the log, like I said earlier, it's going to kick me forward. If I'm gaining speed and I'm accelerating, that's going to propel me up in the air and make my front wheel a little bit higher than my rear wheel, which is what we want on this obstacle. Counterintuitively, when we're wanting to jump it, we don't actually want to come in too fast. Because if we come in too fast and we hit the log, we lose speed and we lose momentum as we're going over it. And what that does is that drops the front wheel and that throws us over the handlebars, or at least makes us have a heavy landing. Whereas if we come in at a steady speed and then we accelerate as we hit the log, what that does is that lifts the front wheel up. So that helps us get a bit more air and it stops us getting kicked over the front. That was better. We're trying to get Nathan to double over these two logs. He's getting closer and closer. When you're hitting a small and steep obstacle like this log, the tendency is for it to kick you forwards and propel you forwards. So you need to use the engine of the bike and your body position to stop you doing this. So when you're coming into the log matrix, you're not revving the bike enough. You kind of half throttle, and then there's not enough pop when you drop the clutch. So you want to clutch in, full gas, and then drop the clutch, and that should give you the pop to clear the rear wheel over the last log. The second thing is when you hit the log, you kind of want to use your legs to kind of bounce the suspension. That gives you a bit more spring and a bit more pop. If you're very tight and rigid on the bike, then the bike isn't able to bounce as easily. So you want to use your legs and almost springboard the bike over the logs.
After this training with Nathan, this was his final attempt, which was so much better.
So now we're trying to get Nathan to do these pipes. He keeps hitting wheeling too late and then getting stuck and not even getting the rear wheel to the pipe. So I said, try and use this hole to wheelie there and then get a little bit of lift earlier.
I prefer second gear because what I do, I usually hit the obstacles in first, because as you know, it's the more comfortable option because you know the power's there and the wheel comes up. But what I find with first is I'm hitting the obstacles closer. Like I'm popping the wheel a bit closer to the obstacles, which sometimes I can hit the obstacle but with second there, I've got the momentum and I'm obviously loading the bike before, which gives me the lift and then drives me into the obstacle.
Yeah, I think second gear, especially right now, it's raining, it's a bit greasy. First gear, you spin so much easier. Again, it depends on the bike, depends on the sprocket. I can't always tell you what gear to ride. But for Nathan and his bike, in this situation, second gear is definitely better to get these bigger pipes because the rear wheel's not going to spin as easily. However, the thing that you're struggling with, I think, in second is you're not doing a second blip. So you're hitting the obstacle with the front wheel and then just at a steady speed where you need to punch the front tire on the pipe. And then you need to slip the clutch again, more revs, and that gives you a second blip, and that's what fires you over the obstacle. So it's the second blip that you're missing. You're still hitting it with a single blip, and sometimes you can hit it hard enough with a single blip to kind of scratch the skid plate over the pipe and roll over. But if you can punch it a second time with the clutch, that will fire you over the pipe. We can already get over medium-sized obstacles with a single blip, but to get over big obstacles, we need that second blip to make it just that much easier. I'm not saying it's impossible with a single blip, but it's a lot harder.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, nice.
Better.
But my second attempt there, you should really be able to hear the bike. The first blip is quite small. You use the compression of the suspension to get the front wheel up more than you use the revs. You can do it with quite low revs. And then it's the second blip where you really need that punch to fire you up over the obstacles. If you listen to the sound of my bike, it's like brup, brup. And that second blip is what fires you over the big obstacles. We can get away with doing small and medium-sized obstacles with just a wheelie and a single blip, but when we're doing these bigger, more challenging obstacles, that double blip really helps. The double blip for me is still a work in progress. I'm not perfect at it, but even getting it in its most basic form can help us. And the more times you do it, the better it gets, the more consistent it gets. And we just want to make marginal gains each time we hit obstacles. A little bit better, until eventually we're perfect. But even I'm not there yet. Thank you for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, check out the video on screen now and book a lesson with me in Hanoi if you're in Vietnam. Thank you.